Okay guys, I'm back and this is going to be number 5. And we left off, we were going to talk about the Bible, why you need to know the history of the Bible, and I won't bore you with it. We'll go through it, but some of it we're going to have to read, because it also tells you about what's going on today and how the Bible came about, because you guys got to remember the Catholic Church played a big part in that, and it wasn't always corrupt. Remember how I told you about painting with the brush? And you can see like there's different churches and where they branched off, and like Holy Toledo, because they say that because there's so many churches there. And when they were all coming over, you guys, and the different you could get into it, but anyway, they'd separate, and one belief over here, and one culture over here and here, and they'd build these churches, and the battle back and forth, and you can see that happen everywhere, but in the United States, and the migration and people when they were first coming to the United States. But like I always recommend to you guys the King James Bible, and there is some books in the Apocrypha that are good, they lay right over top, and some of them have been taken out, but you can get everything you need by the regular Bible, so that's why I recommend it, just a regular King James Bible. You can find them at a dollar store, like I said. You can get one with big print for, I think, $10. That's not bad at all. And in 1604, James the First of England ordered a translation as consistent as he could to the original Hebrew and Greek. And although James was a Protestant, he wanted a Bible to unite his kingdom and not divide it. He profited interpretive marginal holes, which could be accented to religions for different and to cause political unrest. So 54 scholars were appointed to perform the task to divide the 6 panels, working together and checking over, bringing the scripture to life, and keeping it graceful in its true form and true words and stately English. But not until the 20th century did scholars produce an English Bible, and then that was the New King James Bible, New King James Version, and that's not what you want. Martin Luther King, you see that big stretch of time? Oh yeah, I guess that ain't no good anymore. Let's change it. Martin Luther King and the Protestant leaders translated the Bible into German, French, English, and other modern languages to allow worshippers who had formerly relied on Catholic priests to interpret the text for them to draw lessons directly from the scripture. Like Jerome, Luther went back to the original language to produce his German Bible using authentic Greek versions of the New Testament edited by the Catholic humanists. I can't read the rest of that, you guys. And the first printed edition in the Hebrew Bible said the type at Soncino, Italy, in the late 1400s. Luther's Bible was 1,800 pages. Okay, and then they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, you guys, and then there was the 3 young boys. It was said they were herding goats or sheep, and a little narrow strip. The only thing I can say about this is some of it disappeared, and some of it went here and there into the highest bidder and so forth. Because think about if you found stuff, like that. That's probably what most people would do. They were found 400 meters above sea level and 1,200 feet above. So that could be like floor is the earth. So I'm thinking it's good and bad ways, because from what I understand, there's also occult books that were taken out of there that supposedly weren't there. So floors for the world, so remember, good and bad sense, and then we got 1,200 feet. So that's 12, government rule, divine, and then it adds up to 3, a trinity. So it could be a good or bad trinity, a good or bad government system. And see, that applies because there was both books in there that went to false gods, and there was books in there that went to the God of Israel. and one of the animals got away, you know, and they said they went in the cave to look for him. Okay, we got the Torah. That's what the Jews will call the 5 books, which is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And those books, they're precedent. They took precedence right in the beginning and early on. And next came the prophetic works, including historical accounts with prophetical elements: Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, then Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and a dozen other prophets. But other sacred texts were classified as hagiographic holy writings and were not officially evaluated until about 100 CE, when the rabbis met in a council in the Judean town of Jamnia by their counselor, and the others, like Daniel, was accepted and joined the scriptures, and then Psalms, and among the authorities of the writings of the book of the Hebrew. It's where those come out of. And then next came the Acts of the Apostles and the letters of Paul. And it took a long time before they would take Paul in. And in Revelation also took some time, but it was embraced in about 4th century CE. With that, the canon was complete, and now translating and interpreting of the Bible could begin. And Jerome, later canonized as a saint, he sifted through manuscripts to find out what was the closest and original, and so he wanted to stay intimate and very close with the scriptures to bring that through. So Jerome began to work in the late, about 4th century, on a Latin Bible that served the Roman Catholics for about 1,000 years to come as their standard. And Jerome used Greek instead of earlier translated Latin Bibles. Jerome knew Greek well, and he could have just translated it all Greek to Latin using the Greek Holy Septuagint, but he was convinced that only a true translation could be achieved from the scriptures in their original language. And when you read Paul's writings today, and you read it in the Hebrew language or the Greek language, it comes to life, you guys. And you should see what they do on campuses. And they read to people, and they just come and gather around. They'll read it in English, and then they'll read it in Greek, and people love it. And the way the Hebrew language and the Greek languages are, it's beautiful when it's spoken correctly. It provides that vibration of God's Spirit, because it's about Him that these words are in, you know, when you're saying stuff. Okay, and so he wanted to achieve that master in the Hebrew. And Jerome and Hexapla, a text in Hebrew and Greek that includes 6 verses of the Bible in parallel columns. It was produced in the 3rd century by the Christian theologian Origen, and based his work on the Greek and Hebrew scrolls found in a jar in the Holy Land near Jericho. Origen's manuscripts were found in Caesarea and Roman town on the Judean coast. Jerome's translation as the Vulgate, because it was commonly used by the Roman Catholics throughout the Middle Ages, endured as of the great scholarly achievements of the early Christianity. But you guys got to remember, they was doing magic and everything else. And I've got another paper to go through. We'll get on the next one. And then that really gets into about the Pope here. And we'll learn about the Apocrypha and how that came into play. And see, that's where we'll learn about what Jerome did and what the Catholics did, and how they were using, just like in the days of back when Jesus was. There was temple prostitutes and harlots, and they were collecting money and saying, oh, here, you paid your money, this sin's forgiven. And then they would make them pay so much money, and you could do whatever sin you want. And then they would make like accounts, and you could come in and pay so much, and yeah, you can have 2 or 3 wives on the side. Here, just come in and pay this much. And that's what some of the Catholic churches were doing, you guys. And temple prostitutes, harlots, that's what they were called. And we'll get more on this in the next one.